I still remember the day I called my mom to tell her I quit my job. There was a long, cold silence on the other end of the line. Then, her voice, sharp and trembling with anger, cut through the quiet. "How dare you quit your job, you idiot? Who's going to pay our mortgage now?" Her words hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just anger, it was fear. The fear that had been her constant companion for as long as I could remember. To her, a stable job, any stable job, was the ultimate security. It was the only thing that stood between us and the edge of financial ruin, a place she knew all too well. For years, I had been the good son, the responsible one. I got a degree in a field I didn't love, took a corporate job that paid well but drained my soul, and every month, I sent a significant chunk of my paycheck home. It covered the mortgage on the house I grew up in, paid for my younger sister's tuition, and took care of my parents' mounting medical bills. I was their safety net, their retirement plan. But I was also suffocating. The person I was becoming wasn't me. I was a collection of other people's expectations and financial obligations. My job was a spreadsheet of misery. Long hours, a toxic boss, and work that felt completely meaningless. I'd wake up every morning with a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I was tired, perpetually stressed, and I could feel myself slipping into a dark place. The person in the mirror looked hollowed out. I knew I couldn't continue like this. My mental health was fraying at the seams, and I realized that no amount of money was worth this slow, internal collapse. So, I made a plan. I saved every penny I could for 6 months, living on the bare minimum. I researched, I networked, and I found a path that felt right, a path that might not pay as much initially, but one that lit a fire in me. When I finally handed in my resignation, it was the most terrifying and liberating moment of my life. I felt a surge of hope I hadn't felt in years. That hope was immediately crushed by my mother's reaction. To her, I wasn't choosing my well-being, I was being selfish. I was gambling with our family's security, and in her eyes, that was unforgivable. My dad was quieter, more disappointed. He just said, "I thought we raised you to be more responsible." The guilt was immense. Was I a terrible son? Was I throwing away everything they had sacrificed for? The weight of their disappointment was heavier than any corporate pressure I had ever faced. The first few months were brutal. My savings dwindled faster than I expected. The freelance work I had lined up was slow to start. There were days I'd stare at my bank account and hear my mother's voice ringing in my ears. "Who's going to pay our mortgage?" I ate cheap noodles, canceled all my subscriptions, and sold things I didn't need. The stress was different now. It wasn't the soul-crushing dread of my old job, but the sharp, biting anxiety of survival. I had to make a choice. I could crawl back to a job I hated, proving my parents right, or I could bet on myself and push through the uncertainty. I chose to bet on myself. I worked harder than I ever had before. I was up before sunrise, sending out emails, working on my portfolio, taking small, low-paying gigs just to build my reputation. I was learning, growing, and for the first time, I felt like I was building something that was truly mine. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about proving to myself, and to them, that my happiness and their security didn't have to be mutually exclusive. It was about creating a new definition of responsibility. Slowly, things started to change. A small project led to a bigger one. A satisfied client recommended me to another. The trickle of income became a steady stream. It wasn't a corporate salary, not yet, but it was enough. Enough to keep my head above water, and enough to keep sending money home. I never missed a mortgage payment. I couldn't, it was a promise I had made to myself. Each payment was a silent statement: "You can trust me. I am still responsible. I am still your son." The phone calls with my mom were still tense. She stopped yelling, but the questions were relentless. "Did you find a real job yet? Are you sure this is stable?" I stopped trying to justify my path and just let my actions speak. I sent them photos of my work, shared small successes, and most importantly, I kept the financial support consistent. One day, my sister called me. She told me Mom had been showing a picture of a project I completed to her friends. A flicker of pride. It was a small crack in the wall of her fear. The turning point came about a year later. I landed a major contract, a project that paid more than 3 months of my old salary. When I called my mom to tell her, I was braced for skepticism. Instead, there was a pause, just like that first call. But this time, when she spoke, her voice was soft. "That's good," she said. "Just, be careful. Save your money." It wasn't a parade, it wasn't an apology, but it was acceptance. It was her way of saying she was starting to understand. She was starting to see that my stability didn't have to look like the one she envisioned. Today, my relationship with my parents is better than it's ever been. We don't talk much about that difficult time, but the understanding is there. They see that I'm not just surviving. I'm thriving. I'm happy, healthy, and I'm still the son they can rely on. Quitting my job was the hardest decision I ever made. It tested my resolve, strained my family relationships, and pushed me to my absolute limit. But it also taught me that true responsibility isn't just about paying the bills. It's about being responsible for your own happiness and well-being too. Because you can't be a reliable support for others if you, yourself, are broken. If you're feeling trapped, please know there is a way out. It might be a hard road, but betting on yourself is the most important investment you'll ever make. Thanks for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, consider subscribing for more.